And welcome back to the Action Jack-Offs podcast, the show where we talk about the very best and favorite action movies of all time. I'm joined with Lincoln of Lincoln's Show. How you doing today, buddy?
Oh, fantastic. How are you doing, my good sir?
I am doing just fine. Quick PSA for everybody out there who might be watching. Stick around for the end of the show where we will be going over next week's potential movie where we do our picker wheel, spin it a spin, and then we get our random movie.
Little spin it a spin.
Yes, and then at the end of that, well, it's actually going to be out of order, but we're also going to be doing a tier list of all the movies we've covered so far. This is our 10th podcast on Action Jack-Offs, and today we're going to be covering Speed, 1994, with Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock, and Dennis Hopper. And I know this is a movie that you have a lot of memories and ideas with, and if you'll permit me, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of jump into my thoughts and feelings because I know you also have a lot of thoughts and feelings. But I
Oh, I would love to hear him. I would love. This
okay,
is our reverse demolition man.
okay. So I have never seen this movie before. I never watched it before. This is definitely like a first for me.
Incredible.
I know,
Oh, I love it.
and I gotta tell you, man, I am so upset with myself that I never watched it sooner.
Yes, 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 yes.
this is easily this is probably my favorite. My like, I mean, there's the John Wick movies, but this is probably my favorite Keanu Reeves movie. Like,
Oh,
it's up
oh,
there.
it's wonderful.
It's
I'm so glad
it's
to hear you say that.
it's incredible, and I think like it's amazing to me the idea of like the concept of this movie works so well. It's intense, it's action, thrilling. I think everything about this movie just really like sets me off in all the right directions. Um, I think one of the other things I really just I guess just talking about the things that I love about this movie. Um, I love the opening elevator scene. I surprisingly really like Keanu Reeves in this movie. Usually I've never been the biggest fan of his acting. I love the person. I think Keanu Reeves is a cool guy. And I love the John Wick movies. And he does have his moments in those movies. And again, I've never seen Point Break. I know that's like on the docket. Um,
I'm just, it's one of those things where I'm like, hey, I understand your take, but there's two quintessential Keanu Reeves movies that you're just missing from the docket, and you just seen one of them, so we're working our way there.
we're
We're working
halfway
our way
there.
there.
We're halfway
We're
there.
getting, we're halfway there. But he was only given this role because of what he did in Point Break.
Yeah, yeah. That's I had read about that, and I thought that was really cool. And again, it kind of makes me want to go back, and I've got to watch Point Break because it's got my man Roadhouse, Patrick Swayze. It's got Speed, Keanu Reeves.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. The G's. But what
Johnny Utah. Give me two.
and what's even crazier is that we're looking at a this is 1994, right? So this is 1994, and we are just talking about a year of banger after banger after banger of movies. We had this is the year of Pulp Fiction, Shawshank Redemption, Interview with a Vampire, and Forrest Gump. And I mean, we're talking absolute heaters, and I would say Speed is right up there with them.
Oh yeah. Out of all of those movies, this is I've probably rewatched this the second or third most out of all of them.
Yeah, this is a great movie. I really had a lot of fun. It's so funny to me, like how easily sucked in you get right from the jump with the elevator like bombs going off and stuff. And what's even funnier
And
is
Dennis Hopper.
Dennis Hopper being such such a magnetic villain. He's so funny. The movie was so good that I was probably about like 40 minutes into it, and Zeta, she like walked into the room and she was like on her phone a little bit, but she kept like looking up and like getting sucked into the movie. And it was even funnier too, where I had probably like 20 minutes left in the movie, and I was like, okay, I gotta like take a break. I gotta like do some chores. I gotta go to the dump. I gotta go do all this other stuff. And she was like, "Well, now, hold on. Let's finish the movie. We've got like 20 minutes left."
We're almost there. What are you doing?
She's like, "Come on now."
That's awesome.
I know.
I was trying to tell you this one is up there.
This is a very electric, magnetic movie. I really like this one, and I'm very, very
It's got a
glad
pace that's it's got a pace that still rivals movies today.
it does. I mean, because this is coming off the heels of movies, and you're gonna hear me mention Die Hard probably a lot more than I want to, but this is coming off the heels of Die Hard, which kind of changed the landscape for big budget or medium budget action movies, where we've got our our average Joe style character who's pretty on the level going into these crazy intense situations and comes out on top through being clever as opposed to just straight up brute force. There's drama, there's action, there's romance to a degree, and it kind of creates, like you said, this pace that pretty much every action movie from here on out has to replicate in order to achieve great box office status. And I think Speed really does that, which is funny because a movie called Speed definitely comes with a really fast pace.
It literally rocks, dude.
Yeah, yeah. What up, Marv? Welcome to the podcast. You actually got here a lot really early.
Marv,
I know.
Marv, you're right on time. I like it.
Yep.
Punctual.
Punctual. Yeah. We're talking about Speed today.
Classic.
Well, appreciate you, bud. I understand you don't have to stay long, but we always welcome you when you come by.
As long as you can. That's all I ask. I appreciate every second, Marv.
Good luck with that, buddy. So now, anyway, um, I would pass the torch back to you, my good sir, and let you kind of talk about the things you want to talk about right off the get.
Oh, just an excellent. We've been talking about action movies. A few of them have been pretty good. I talked about my love for Fast and the Furious the other day. We're gonna rank them all later. I don't need to go too far into it, but Speed,
Speed, my guy.
Speed, Speed's one of the jewels on the crown. When we're talking about Mount Rushmore, when we're talking about electric movies that just absolutely kick your ass and make you want to come back for more, we're talking about Speed, baby.
Yeah, no, definitely. If
We're
we're
talking about high action. We're talking about stunts. We're talking about buses. I'm talking about pop quizzes, hot shot.
pop quiz, hot shot. What do you do with blank?
Oh, it's so good.
Pop quiz, hot shot. What do you do when two nerds get together and make a podcast about action movies?
That should have been how we opened it. That's so good. Oh, I love it. No, this movie's excellent. A little bit of movie memory, since we're not doing that as much, is this is one of those movies where it's one of, well, first of all, it's referenced so much in so many things. It's been ripped off so many times. It is as well a Die Hard ripoff, but then has been ripped off itself.
Right. It's got its
But
own
watching,
identity.
oh yeah, it's become its own thing. Kind of like Alien being a ripoff from Jaws has spawned its own type of thing. But I really just enjoy seeing the young Keanu Reeves, the young Sandra Bullock. This would then lead into her role in Demolition Man as well.
No, this came after.
Oh, this is after it.
This is
See, I
after.
always thought that this was her first. This was her first role, but I always mix it up. I guess
No, you're
first
fine.
time I saw her. First time I saw her, at least.
Was
Um,
Speed, yeah.
yeah,
And then Demolition Man came and
really
it changed your life. I got you.
changed my life. Yeah. So funny, so funny. Uh, but this one doesn't pussy out as much as Demolition Man with her character. I will say.
Oh no, this is definitely the better character for that Sandra Bullock
This is,
portrays.
yeah, for the way better character.
Yeah, no
Um,
shot. It's not even close.
no, not even. Uh, but I very much just like the Dennis Hopper role as the bad guy. I was always very intrigued, and like it's one of those movies where you'd catch like half of it on TV and be like, oh, they haven't done the jump yet. I'm staying.
Yeah, yeah. Like if I could definitely see myself if I'm ever in a position where I'm like watching basic cable, which is rare, I'll be honest. But if I'm ever in a position where I just catch this movie playing and I recognize where the scenes are, like, oh, he's chasing after the bus, or oh, they're at the airport, or they're
Or
at
just like how what you were saying with Zeta, walking in like somebody else is watching it, and you're like, "Oh, what's this?
exactly. It catches you, and you're
Oh,
like,
this
oh, I
looks
gotta.
really good."
Yeah, you're like, oh, I
It's
gotta
just such a
stay.
simple like this and Unstoppable have the same kind of vibe where it's just something is happening where you're just like you're looking and there's never a moment where you do want to look at your phone as much as like some movies where there's just talking. Even in action movies, sometimes there's parts where you're like I could probably go to the bathroom right now and still know what's going on.
Yeah, no, this is definitely one of those movies where if you kind of lose focus and you take a break without pausing, you're definitely going to miss a lot of key moments because the crazy thing about this movie is there's always just something happening because of the pace of the movie. The outside of the elevator sequence and a lot of the stuff in the subway, everything having to do with the bus is supposed to take place over the course of 2 hours from like 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. within the movie,
Which is perfect.
which is perfect because the movie itself is just under 2 hours. So it all feels very like close and concise. To the
It feels like you're living in that time period.
it literally feels like the movie is taking place within the allotted time of the movie itself. So that pace of just like something is always constantly happening is persistent throughout the whole movie.
And the pace in which characters are dying as well, you kind of start to wonder if everybody's going to be okay or not.
Yeah, yeah, no, especially when like at first you think the bus driver is going to die, and then the next thing you know,
Mm-hmm.
that like eccentric lady gets blown up right in the bus door, and she's
On the
dead.
steps, yeah.
Yeah, and she's dead.
Were you expecting that explosion, or do you think she was just going to fall off or something?
I did not know what to. I honestly didn't think she was gonna die right then and there. I thought they were gonna like pull her back
Yeah, it's
or
pretty good.
something.
It's pretty jarring. They don't show that. It's just like they kind of cut around it on TV.
There's definitely a lot more deaths than I would have expected, especially when you get to the point where the SWAT team is trying to break into that house where they think Dennis Hopper's character is, and the house just blows up, killing like obviously Jeff Daniels' character and then like however many other police officers.
Maiming a number of others as well.
Yeah, and I was like, what the fuck? I didn't expect this.
Oh yeah, the call's coming from a different house. You gotta expect it.
Yeah, the call is not coming from inside the house for once. It is coming from another location altogether.
Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah,
What
no,
a great movie. I
I
love it so much. I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. I was expecting this to be like the Demolition Man where you're like, I just can't believe people watch this.
no, no. No, it's funny
You were like,
because
this is my type of garbage.
everything about it worked for me. I cannot think of
Perfect.
I can't think of a single thing that just flat out did not work. I think the only thing that you can hold against this movie, and it's the most piss poor excuse, like the most piss poor critique of this movie, is that it is very similar to Die Hard. And I think that alone is like, hey, you know what? I like Die Hard. So
Yeah.
so it's like that's not a negative. Some people try to play that
Yeah, out of
as a
all of
out of all of
I was just gonna say that I was just gonna say out of all of the Die Hard ripoffs, if this is like the best example, like give me more of this.
yeah, like if this is if this is the formula that we have to do to make movies, and obviously like the formula isn't sound, not every movie that's a rip on Die Hard is going to be a good movie. That Die Hard is its own lightning in a bottle, and I think Speed does a good job of kind of doing a subversion on that expectation. It takes it to a new extreme and does something different with it. It's Die Hard on a bus, and I think that concept alone is enough to carry the movie, especially if you have great actors giving their best performances in their careers, like Keanu Reeves. You've got a supporting cast of Jeff Daniels and um excuse me, Joe Morton and Alan Ruck, and you've got like all these guys, Sandra Bullock, Dennis Hopper. I mean, you've got people putting in the absolute work to make this concept work, and it works. You know, I said work three times there,
Big Joe Morton fan.
but it works. You know, it just does. Oh, I know. Joe Morton he's on my list, and we'll get into the categories here in a second. But
I just had to shout him out early. I just big fan. Him in Smallville and Eureka, all the shows that he was in and stuff. Always been a big fan.
yeah, he really kills it in this role. I honestly like seeing the I like seeing him in this role in particular because I don't get to see him in semi heroic roles that much, where he's just a normal guy and he's just trying to help. That's the other thing that I like is that you have this crazy concept of a bomb on a bus that explodes if it goes below 50 miles per hour. And you've just got like all these regular people involved. You've got the construction worker on the bus, you've got the lieutenant, you've got Jeff Daniels, who Harry in the movie. You've got all these people on the bus that are just regular citizens that just got roped into this crazy mess. And even Keanu Reeves' character is a pretty calm, collected, down to earth character that kind of grounds the movie. It kind of creates a good reflection of the audience and how these people are or how they act in contrast to the intense, ridiculous situation going on, which I find
And it just
fascinating.
makes a recipe that just makes a recipe that's absolutely lightning, bro.
Oh, I know it's absolutely killer, and I can't get enough of it. But that being said, we'll go ahead and get to the development of this project. Feel free to just interject, stop me if I start getting a little long-winded here, as I tend to do.
No, of course. I got my points too. We got this.
Okay, so getting into the development of this movie, the movie was written by Graham Yost, who is also the series creator for Justified, which is a really good TV show. He based,
Love it.
oh, I know, I love Timothy Olyphant, that movie, who we talked about last week as being a potential cast member of Fast and the Furious, which is a fun connection there. That's something I find interesting about just movies is like the connections between all these different movies. But
Oh, there's a fun game that I'll tell you about after that we can play at some point.
bye, Marv. We'll see you later, bud.
Bye, Marv.
Oh, Marv, real quick, do you have any suggestions for this week's wheel? If not, just go ahead and go have fun. Anyway, Graham Yost. He based this script on a John Voight movie in 1985 called Runaway Train, which itself was based on an Akira Kurosawa screenplay. Akira Kurosawa, most famous for Seven Samurai, for those that don't know. This movie, Speed, was originally going to be called Minimum Speed as a reference to the minimum speed that it was allowed to go, which in the original script was 20 miles per hour. But then friends of Yost convinced him to make it 50 miles per hour, which makes a lot more sense.
It would have been really lame if this was called minimum speed.
And the minimum speed
Like,
is
I don't think we'd
20.
be talking about it. I don't think anybody would have seen it. I'm
No, and that's
gonna
why they
start calling it
changed it.
minimum speed.
They said, and that's why it was changed because minimum sounded like it was taking away from the title of the movie, like it sounded really negative. So they just went with speed, which I think that's obviously a much better
It just
name.
rules.
It works. It works a lot better.
I
But
just imagine somebody sitting there and they have minimum speed written on the top of a script, and the other guy walks in and they just go scribble, 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 scribble. Now
yeah,
that
now
I could
that
sell that.
that it taps on the table, that's a title there, buddy.
That's a title, buddy.
Yeah.
Hey, that one's for free.
Yeah. iRobot and Yohimbo. Okay, I'll definitely put those on the wheel.
Oh, I love iRobot.
Oh yeah, I have a lot of memories with iRobot, but yeah, we'll definitely put that on the wheel.
Thanks, Marv. You're the best.
All right, have fun, bud. The original script took place solely on the bus, and did not include the elevator or subway scenes. This was the
Oh, you
script.
gotta have those.
Yeah, that was added after the fact, and I'll briefly explain why. That first draft of the script was initially brought to Paramount, who thought about greenlighting it and even wanted to hire Die Hard director John McTiernan because of his resume of blockbusters, which, as we all know, includes Predator, Die Hard, and even Hunt for Red October. However, he declined the offer, citing the script was too much of a retread of Die Hard, and referred his friend Jan de Bont to direct instead. Which is funny because that's kind of a theme with this movie is that some people were offered the role or they were offered to join the project in some form or fashion and they declined solely because they thought it was a Die Hard retread.
Hey, I'm glad they did. I wouldn't change a thing.
It all happened for a reason, you know what I mean?
It happened for a reason, a glorious reason.
Yeah. DeBont was the director of photography for Die Hard, Hunt for Red October, and Lethal Weapon 3. He's had a lot of experience working with John McTiernan in that regard. After Speed, he would even go on to direct Twister, which is the other big thing he's known for.
I knew I liked him.
You knew he sounded like somebody you cared about.
Oh, I knew there was something special about him.
Yeah, no,
See, that's
he's
why I like, unless I know it by heart or something, or just off the top of my head, I don't like to do as much research because I love when you tell me little things like this.
yeah, man, I got you.
Oh,
Um,
it's the best. I can't wait to do Twister.
yeah, it'll be on the docket, I'm sure. Unfortunately, Paramount actually passed on the movie, and
Those
Yost,
fools.
those fools, I know they regret it. Uh, but Yost, with DeBont in tow, went to 20th Century Fox, and Fox was ready to give the okay, but they wanted more action sequences other than the bus to be included, simply because they thought a movie where people are on a bus for 2 hours didn't seem like it was going to be so exciting. Which, to a
I
degree,
mean,
I
boy, were they
understand.
wrong.
Boy, were they wrong, because the majority of this movie is all bus, but they did add, because of their intervention, the scenes of the elevator sequence and the subway sequence were added to bookend this movie, and I think that's a net positive.
Oh yeah, for sure. I
So
think it could have worked without him, but I'd love that they put him in there.
potentially. I mean, with so DeBont conceived the elevator sequence, and Yost came up with the train scene, just as like a point of reference for who did what, because these are obviously the two big minds behind this. However, I thought this was really interesting. Uh, of all people, Joss Whedon actually came on to do some writing for this project.
Our boy from the Avengers?
Yeah, Buffy the Vampire
Crazy.
Slayer, the Avengers,
But all before he ruined the Justice League.
all before he ruined the Justice League. But Joss Whedon would actually come on to write 99% of the dialogue, and he even reconfigured the Jack-0ffs character from a comedic line spewer to a polite and calm guy. Whedon's other contributions,
Interesting.
I know, and instead of getting this kind of like typical action glib hero where he just spits out one-liners and is more funny, Whedon was like, "Hey, that sounds stupid. What if we did
I
this
mean, he
instead?"
still kind of does have
He
one-liners.
still does, but I also think he works better as this guy who you can tell puts the value of human life above all else.
And he has more of like a crisis aversion type of point of view to it instead of like a Bruce Willis running to the fire type of mentality.
Right. You know, instead of yippee ki yay, motherfucker, he's going around, he's actually trying to diffuse multiple situations. Like whenever that one guy pulls a gun on him as soon as he gets on the bus.
I'm not a cop right now.
Yeah.
We're just two guys hanging out.
And then that construction worker's like, oh, I'm going to be the hero today. And jumps into action.
It all just leads to one of the best squibs in the entire movie genre.
Oh, the bus driver getting shot.
I think it's one of the most believable squibs
Really? Of all
because
of
sometimes they
all
overdo.
squibs?
I'm not saying that it's the best. I'm not saying that it's like the most action-packed squib or like the most exciting squib. I think it's the most like realistic squib because it's just the one.
Okay, I can feel that. I can feel that. I mess with that.
Like it doesn't get like a Kill Bill blast when it comes out or anything. It's just like a nice little squirt, you know?
Sure, yeah. I mean that makes sense. And that's really like the only one you get, right? Like there's not really that many
Yeah, I
others.
think that's the only one. There's not
That's
a lot of gunshots and stuff that actually hit people in this movie.
no, it's mostly explosions. Which and even then,
Explosions and crashes will get you.
explosions, crashes, that's what will do it. But yeah, so some of the other contributions included that Josh Whedon introduced, where he was the one that offered to kill off the Harry character, Jeff Daniels' character. He also changed Alan Ruck's character, Doug Stevens, from a evil lawyer, from what I read, to being a good guy tourist. And Joss Whedon also is the arbiter of the line pop quiz hot shot.
I hate him, but he did some good. He did some good
He
work
was a
back in the day.
he was a good writer, you know. He was a great writer. He wrote
He,
Alien Resurrection.
all right, so maybe not a good writer. He had his moments,
We have our ups and downs. We all do. We all do.
and then he looked at Zack Snyder's masterpiece and said, "How can I ruin this?"
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, masterpiece is kind of a loose term there, but
Hey, we can argue back and forth about DC all day long on another podcast. Let me tell you.
yeah, yeah, sure. But anyway, getting into some of the casting development for this movie, Stephen Baldwin from Born on the Fourth of July and The Usual Suspects was the first choice for Jack Traven, but again declined
Hate it.
because he felt the script was too much like Die Hard. So we have yet another cast member who declined the role because he thought it was too much of a retread of Die Hard.
Yeah, good thing.
I,
Not a fan.
I was about to say, I don't think we missed out on much there.
No, he's good in Usual Suspects, but even that, he's like the fifth lead.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like the tragedy of an ensemble cast, but that's that. Others considered for the role of Jack Travern were Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, Wesley Snipes, and Woody Harrelson. Wesley Snipes would obviously go on to star in a Die Hard on a Plane movie. Plane, what was it? It was like 727. I forget the name of that movie.
Is a oh, I thought you were talking about U.S. Marshals.
No, no. Die Hard on a Plane.
Yes, yes, yes.
But I think Tom Cruise would not have been such a bad choice. He's kind of got that same build as Keanu Reeves.
No, yeah, it could have worked for sure.
Could have
I
worked.
can imagine him doing the LAPD. There's a bomb on your bus.
Yeah. And Woody Harrelson wouldn't have been bad either. I think this same year this movie came out, Woody Harrelson did Natural Born Killers. So
Yeah,
so
I,
maybe he was a little busy.
just a little bit busy, but I don't think anybody but the Reeves man could have done it.
I think Keanu Reeves definitely did a bit. Like I said earlier, I think this is definitely his best role for sure.
It's iconic. It's on. It has to be mentioned when you talk about him.
I think his well, let me rephrase my statement. Let me retract my statement. I think John Wick is his best role. This is his best movie.
I love it.
Yeah. If I,
These are the words I was hoping I was going to hear today.
yeah. The role of Annie was initially written as an African American woman and a paramedic, which is supposed to tie into why she's so good at driving a public transportation vehicle under a high stress situation. The role was offered to Holly Berry, who regretted not taking the part because she declined. The character was
It could
then.
work. I would have been happy with
I
it.
think it would have been fine. I think it's such a I don't want to call it generic role, but it is like your typical. I mean, the most unique thing she does in the movie is she drives the truck, the bus, which is a very like mandatory part of the movie. but I feel like her character kind of makes it seem like anybody could have played the role. Although I'm glad Sandra Bullock ended up playing the role. You know what I mean? Because
It's perfect.
the very next person who was considered, I think would have ruined this movie if she became the co-star. Because the character of Annie was actually tweaked to be more of a comedic sidekick, and what and Ellen DeGeneres was considered.
Ah, ah.
You ever just like hear about a
P.
casting?
Sherman 42 Wallaby Way, Sydney. P. Sherman Wallaby
Yeah,
P.
no,
Sherman. No, it would have been bad.
it would have
It
been
would have been bad.
awful. It would have been awful. I genuinely, it's kind of one of those things where you think about those kind of castings that you hear about. Like last week when we were talking about Fast and the Furious, and I had heard that Eminem was considered for the role. He was offered the role of Brian O'Connor in Fast and Furious, and I was like, oh my god, holy shit, that's incredible. And then with this movie, you're like, oh my god, Ellen DeGeneres was almost Annie. Fuck that. Like the contrast between those two
I
is
would have done it.
hilarious.
It's one way or the other. Sometimes we're like, yeah, they're like they could have done it, they could have done it, like we did a second ago. But most of the time, it's like, what the fuck, in a good way or a bad way.
Yeah, I'm genuinely glad that that did not happen. That Ellen DeGeneres did not get this role.
Tragically bad if that happened.
Yeah, like this movie probably wouldn't even be talked about the way it is. It because then there would be a way more comedic lean to the movie that would juxtapose in a negative way all of the intense action situations.
And it just would not exist in the pop culture.
It wouldn't. Yeah, you're right. It wouldn't have the same impact that it has today.
Or it would be like one of those unwatchable movies that everybody's like, ah, see how long you can get through this one.
Like stop, like stop, or my mom will shoot. Starring Sylvester Stallone.
That's a classic. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, that's definitely gonna be on the pod for sure. Out of all the movies,
Oh, I can't. I think I might have to quit.
um. So anyway, getting into oh yeah, I forgot. Um, obviously like the role, the character evolved during the screenwriting process, and it evolved to being a more sidekick role and then later love interest role wherein Sandra Bullock was brought on. But some of the other considerations I thought would be interesting to include here were Meryl Streep and Kim Basinger.
What a different movie.
What a different movie that would be. Because those actresses were a little bit older than Keanu Reeves and a little bit older than Sandra Bullock at the
And
time.
way more established.
Way more established. It really feels like that was just like, not to say that the role was beneath them, but I mean they're more, especially Meryl Streep.
Like it overpowered the movie.
With Meryl Streep, it definitely felt like she's such a more classical actor. But then again, she did Mamma Mia, so I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, of course. It's
Um,
like if Daniel Day Lewis was in the Keanu Reeves role, you'd be like,
yeah,
really?
yeah. Like I mean, okay, sure, I
He only
guess.
comes out of the woodworks every 7 years, and this is what he's doing.
Yeah, how odd. Which is funny because I did
It's like
see.
when you see Joaquin. It's like when you see Joaquin Phoenix's older roles versus what he does now.
Oh man, you know what that reminds me of? We bring up Joaquin Phoenix
What's that?
is that River Phoenix actually died during the filming of this movie. Tragically passed away during the filming.
Tragic.
Yeah, he passed away during the filming of this movie, and Keanu Reeves was close friends with River, and apparently this took place like pretty much around like principal filming, really early on, and it deeply, deeply affected Keanu Reeves. Like it to the point where he had to take time off, and the filming schedule had to be delayed just so he could grieve. Because it got to the point where he was like quiet on set, he was like very distant, and Jan de Bont gave him the time necessary to just grieve properly. And I think that's so interesting going into what Keanu Reeves' mindset was like during the making of this movie.
He's just a gem. We don't deserve him.
He's a nice guy. Um, so getting
He's
into
been through so much.
yeah, getting into some of the filming, just some little tiny filming tidbits here. 13 buses were used during filming with
Oh, really?
yeah, 13. With two being blown up, the first bus that got blown up and then the second bus that got blown up via the airplane. And one was used for interior shots. It actually had the front of it cut out so that way they could get good shots of the bus. I'm certain there was another bus where the back of it was cut out so you could get like the reverse interior shots. And what else? What else? One was used exclusively for under the bus scenes, and one was used for the bus jump, which was shot in one take. Funny story about that. That's actually somewhat of a loaded statement because there was technically two buses that were used for that stunt of jumping over that 50-foot gap, where the um, the first bus missed the mark and crashed, and they had to lie to the studio and tell them that it was successful. And they went and they got another bus to do the jump, which I thought
Dude,
was
when you
funny.
lie on your homework,
Yeah, and you actually get the answer right. Film,
dude, that's wild. I hadn't heard that one before.
yeah, that's one of my favorite things about this movie, honestly. Filming of the freeway scenes took place on Interstate 105 and 110, and the airport shots were done at the Mojave Airport instead of the Los Angeles International Airport like it is in the movie. But yeah, that's that. And I'll go ahead and just get into the awards and accolades. So, on a budget of $30 to $37 million, the worldwide box office for Speed was $350.5 million.
No, that's how you do it right there, son.
Yeah, so the Academy it so funny enough, this is the first movie that we're talking about that was not only nominated for an Academy Award but won two.
That's why it's up there, buddy.
It won the Academy Awards for Best Sound and Best Sound Effects Editing, which is crazy because amongst the echelon of all the movies that won at the Oscars, like Forrest Gump and all those guys, you had alongside them Speed. What a landmark.
People like to forget about it, let me tell you.
Yeah. It
People
also
like to pretend like they've never even seen this movie, like you.
I
Try to
haven't.
go by. You try to go by life living a lie,
I haven't.
living an incomplete life.
It's so funny because it's not like with Fast and the Furious where I had seen like bits and pieces, or I had probably seen the whole movie at some point, but was like just barely paying attention, so I like forgot a lot of things. But with this movie, this is legitimately the first movie on the pod that I just flat out have not seen. Oh, except for Beverly. I had watched Beverly Hills Cop before too. Actually, never mind. This is legitimately the first movie on the pod that I have just flat out not seen.
Feels good.
Yeah, no, it's great. Um, it also won two BAFTA awards for Best Sound and Best Editing. Sandra Bullock, I thought this was really interesting as a juxtaposition to the Razzie Award she won for like worst actress in Demolition Man. She actually won Best International Actress. She won a Jupiter Award for Best International Actress. So I thought she was due. She was due for that.
See, this is what I'm talking about. People understand good movies.
Oh yeah, and they also won like
Because Demolition Man sucks.
we're coming back. You changed your perspective again.
After I saw Speed, I was like, you know what? This is a good movie. I don't know what I was thinking.
It's a cleansing of the palate for sure.
Uh
Uh,
huh.
but there was a, and of course there was like a slew of MTV Movie Awards that they won. I think most notably was Dennis Hopper winning Best Villain. That's the only one I can remember off the top of my head.
As he should. As he
Yeah,
should.
but yeah, that's it for a lot of the developmental stuff. So I just thought that was really interesting. I always think it's really interesting talking about how the movie was made and how these things came to be. But yeah, you want to go ahead
I
and
do as well.
jump into the categories
Oh yeah.
real
Oh yeah.
quick? Real quick, I have to know, what did your dad say?
Oh, do you want that now?
I would love to hear what your dad had to say about this movie.
Okay, so we bounced around the little category of my dad sending a paragraph whenever it's a movie that he really enjoys, and let me tell you, he jumped when I told him that we were doing Speed.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't get to be there for that one, and I went, oh, it's gonna be so late. I don't know if you're gonna be able to stay up. And he went, all right, hold on, let me give you some bullet points.
Roasted him.
Roasting him. So, first bullet point.
Okay.
Second best Keanu Reeves performance ever behind only Point Break.
Oh, wow.
Don't
Nice.
care about The Matrix or John Wick. Recency bias.
Well, there you go. No recency bias. I respect it.
He said he does not care about those two movies.
Okay.
It's this or Point Break for him.
So,
Going back to what we were talking about earlier.
so I feel like now
Uh,
we definitely have to have him on for Point Break, or else we've committed a slight
oh
against
yeah,
him.
we gotta work out a schedule at some point. We gotta like have you like a day off or something,
I feel
and
like
work it out where we could all three be there.
I feel like in that regard, we should do like that planning off stream, and then we'll do that planning off stream. We should probably take Point Break off the picker wheel so we don't accidentally get it and then have
Oh
to
yeah,
scramble for what our schedule is. We'll get together and we'll do that after this, but and we'll do that whenever we get to the wheel. But go ahead with your second bullet point.
The second bullet point. Sandra Bullock at her hottest, he says.
I love that.
Third bullet point.
I love that's a parameter.
That's a whole thing. That's a whole bullet point he gave us.
I love it.
Uh, Technically, the second bullet point was he doesn't care about John Wick or Matrix, but it just kind of went with the first one.
Oh, okay, okay.
The third bullet point: the bus never survives the jump or any of the accidents or obstacles in any universe except for Looney Tunes.
That's fair. That's fair. There's no way it, in any normal circumstance, would it have ever made the jump, let alone survive the jump.
Dennis Hopper is awesome and better than Hans Gruber in Die Hard.
Whoa! Whoa!
That's where he's coming. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
That's
Speed is a household.
That is insane. That's like a shotgun blast of rock salt to my face. Holy shit!
Dude, I told him to come with some heat.
He came with the heat. God dang.
And then the last bullet point is that Speed 2 should have never happened, and then in quotes, unless with Keanu Reeves.
Who did it? Obviously I've never seen Speed 2. I heard it was a bad sequel. It's like one of the worst sequels ever made. Who was the lead in that?
So Speed 2 follows Sandra Bullock with a new boyfriend, and they're on a boat where the same kind of thing happens.
Yeah, but who's the other guy?
Oh,
It doesn't matter.
I'm not sure.
Sandra Bullock's the lead.
It doesn't matter because it's a Sandra Bullock is like the lead.
I gotcha. So Sandra
Let me
Bullock's the lead.
see real fast. The cast. Who is the? It is Jason Patrick.
Oh, okay.
And then Willem Dafoe is the villain.
Now that's funny.
Yeah, it's just bad.
I can't
We
wait to
tried to
watch
watch it. We watched Speed on vacation one year, and we were like, all right, let's just boot up Speed 2, and we all kind of just like slowly started leaving the room.
That's hilarious. That's actually hilarious. Yeah, that whole
like somebody was like, yeah, it sounds like I think we should go to the beach real fast. Yeah, we're gone. And then my dad was like, yeah, I'm thinking about taking a nap. And then all of a sudden it was just playing, but nobody was in the living room.
You guys didn't even pause it.
No, I don't think we did. I think we just let it play out to give it at least that much respect.
God. That's hilarious. Um, yeah, that I still can't get over that Hans Gruber take. That's so
He's
that
just not big into Die Hard.
really. See, he loves Die Hard on a bus, but he doesn't like Die Hard.
He doesn't like the original.
That is funny. Wait, does so what's if he
He
doesn't
just he,
he likes
I was just
oh my
I was
god.
just gonna say that he whenever he says anything about Die Hard, he just goes too slow.
I respect it. It's got to have speed. It's got to have some speed to
It's got a speed.
it. It's got to go fast. I love it. Do you want to go ahead and jump into our categories? What our
For
categories are?
sure.
So number one liners, I had, "Will the mystery guest please sign in?" Which I thought was funny, especially how Jeff Daniels replies to it because he's like, "What?"
What?
um,
I already said a few of them as we were going along. The LAPD, there's a bomb on your bus one. I just think that line reading is really funny.
yeah, for sure. I'll counter with, "You're the expert. I just work here," from that same scene.
For sure. And then we also have already said the pop quiz hotshot.
Probably the most identifiable quote from the movie is that. I also love how they kind of it changes by the end of the movie where he's like, "Pop quiz asshole," and I was like, hey now, it's pronounced hot shot. Okay, you can't just fuck with the formula all of a sudden.
Oh, it's so funny.
Um,
And then as well as his the line reading of whenever they hit the baby carriage, and he goes, "It's just cans. It's cans."
his line reads in this movie are so funny. Like I love them so much. Like because Keanu Reeves always says things in such a weird way sometimes. Like it's so funny. It's so funny.
It's just cans.
It's just cans.
It's
Uh, there's a
cans.
bomb on the bus. Yeah,
There's a
he's
bomb on the bus.
he's great. And then I have my last one is whenever Keanu Reeves kills Dennis Hopper by uh letting that whatever that was that red light in the subway decapitate him, and Sandra Bullock is like, "What happened to Payne?" And he goes, "He lost his head."
You don't like the one where he's like, "Yeah, but I'm taller."
That one made me laugh because of how absolutely stupid it was.
It's really bad. I have a few more.
Go ahead, hit me with them.
So I had uh, in the elevator shaft, Dennis Hopper, whenever the cable doesn't like drop it, he goes, "They usually drop by now."
Yeah, that one guy. Yeah.
Uh, and then during the scene where Keanu Reeves is trying to talk down the random guy on the bus who has a gun, he goes, "I don't know you, man."
Yeah, like, dude, it's so funny. Like, of course, some more crazy shit like that would happen as he's in the middle of trying to keep this bus from exploding.
There's just always something happening,
So funny.
and that's what I love about it.
Was that
And
it?
then I got a few
I
more.
was just
Don't you
asking.
worry.
I was just asking. You let me know when you're
I,
done.
I got a few more. And then whenever the Alan Ruck character has the phone and Keanu Reeves is looking at the bomb underneath the bus and stuff, Keanu Reeves starts like swearing and he's like "fuck shit," and then Alan Ruck on the phone to translate it to the policeman just goes, "Oh darn."
That was a good one. Yeah.
It was really I laughed because I didn't remember that. I thought he was just gonna stand there for a second and then the camera was gonna cut away or something, and he just goes, "Oh darn."
Yeah. No, that was a good
And then
read.
as well as the the the
This
the
better be
crash thing
good.
happens. The crash happens, and then the Keanu Reeves goes, "I guess they fell behind."
Oh my god. That's so cringe.
All right, you can keep going now.
Okay, so I did some of the categories a little out of order just because I was so sucked into the movie. I had to keep going back and reminding
That's what I
myself
like to
that I was
hear.
like taking notes. Um, Because I mean, that's just what happens sometimes. Like when it's the first time you're watching a movie that's as good as Speed, you just kind of like stop and you just watch the movie. Like so many times, especially when we do the podcast or whenever I'm thinking about doing a video on a movie, I always stop and I take my notes during the movie, or I kind of like stop, take a break, go do something, and then think about the movie, contemplate things, come back. When I was watching Speed, I watched it today all in one sitting because
I love it.
I was that sucked into it.
You want to know? I took my notes in reverse today.
Did you?
I wrote down more stuff before I watched the movie than when I watched it.
Now that see that's what I did. I had to keep going back and see so that's what you did. I did the opposite where at the end of the movie I had to go back and write all my notes.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Because, like, even before I watched it throughout the week, I just had my notepad on my desk, and I was just like, I would think it'd be like pop quiz.
Yeah, like you were already thinking.
This explosion.
That's what happens whenever you watch a movie as many times as I assume you've watched this movie because I've watched a lot of movies like that, you know, like I've watched Batman 89 like a whole bunch that I know like almost every line and whatnot. Um, and I assume it's the same with you and Speed. But like I
Oh, it's
said,
up there.
I was writing my categories a little out of order, so I went with my next category here is deja vu, where we talk about this is the category where we talk about where we look at the screen and we just go, "Hey, I know that guy." Mine I had two. Was one was Joe Morton as Lieutenant McMahon. He was Miles Dyson in Terminator 2. That's like the big one. And then my second one was Alan Ruck as Doug Stevens because he was Cameron in Ferris Bueller. What was yours?
I love it.
Yeah.
I also had Joe Morton, and then Patrick Fischler. I didn't even know this guy's name, but he shows up for a second, and I was like, hey, this mother,
What's
this
he?
dude.
What's he from?
He has a small part in the original Twister,
Okay.
and then he kind of just plays like the swarmy old school as well. He kind of just always plays like a swarmy little guy.
Oh, okay. I got you. I'm trying to think. Who's he? Who did he play in the movie? In Speed.
In this one, he's like, let's see what his actual title is. The friend. It says the friend.
Was he the guy? Was he one of the people in the beginning in the elevator shaft?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
the friend of executive so and so. It says.
I gotcha. No, I got it. I know who you're talking about now. That's cool. Um, which then that makes me think of cameos, and that kind of like leads me into spotlight cameo, the category where we talk about our favorite cameos we wanted to highlight. Um, since you were already in your category, I'll let you start off here.
For this one, I had Hawthorne James, the bus driver.
Okay, yeah. Where'd you see him from
He
again?
also also appears in Seven during the scene where Morgan Freeman is going to the library to take notes on the serial killers and stuff. He's one of the attendants at the library who like starts playing classical music whenever he insults them for being uneducated.
Huh. Been a while since I've seen Seven.
He's just a yeah. It's just he's just a very recognizable guy.
Yeah. Mine was John Capodice or Capotis. It's very Italian. I don't know. Um,
I think it's just Capote.
Capote. John Capody. That sounds better. John Capody as
Yeah.
Bob. He was in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective as the jerk detective, the guy that was like, he would say things like, "Hey, Ventura, I think somebody accidentally flushed a toad." You want to get on that? Just that guy, just that asshole. He's the bus driver that gets
Just
blown
real
up.
helpful.
He's the bus driver that gets blown up
Really funny.
towards the beginning of the movie. Then we have iconic images, the category where we talk about our favorite still frames in the movie. and mine was at the 1 hour, 20 minute, 45-second mark. It was the close up shot of Jeff Daniels' face right as he's about to get blown up. And
Incredible.
I thought that was such a good like still frame because in his face he's just like, "Oh god, I'm about to die." And it
It's
for
like when somebody gets you in Yu-Gi-Oh.
yeah, it was like us at that tournament. Um
Yeah, it was.
but it for some reason it really reminded me of Dumb and Dumber.
I wonder why.
like like it's just like he because he's such a good facial actor, he really knows how to like twist his face, and that's just he does that a lot in Dumb and Dumber, and it was a little bit more subtle, but like with small twinges here and there peppered throughout his face. So I just thought that was really good. What was yours?
I had one at 1:45, and then I wasn't sure exactly what second, but it was the big explosion where sorry, got a little tongue tied,
You're good.
where the bus runs into the jet.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That's a good image. That's very iconic.
I wasn't sure exactly like what second, but it's at like an hour and 45 and some change, but exactly what second to choose. But it's when it explodes.
I gotcha. I gotcha. So, well, hour 45, that leaves about like 10 minutes left. So does like the whole subway sequence has to happen in that time frame?
Yeah, it's pretty quick because then they just kind of like escape. It might have been a little bit earlier, but that's what I had written down.
I got
Written
you.
down.
I got you. Best explosion. What do you got for me?
I had when Jeff Daniels dies in the house explosion.
Gotcha. That's a more yeah. That's it's to me that's not very like a big spectacle, but that is a very impactful death.
Yeah, because like I had written down the explosion in the previous category, so wanted to change it up a little bit, but I thought that that one was more impactful to the story.
Yeah, for sure. Mine was when the bus blows up the plane.
Yeah,
I mean, that was just such a big
it's a spectacle.
that's one of those big spectacular explosions where it just keeps exploding for a little bit. Like right when you think, "Oh, it's finally done," it just like explodes some more and you're like, "Holy shit." But that's a good one.
It's a big old fireball.
Yep. So, best stunt, I had two options. I had either Keanu Reeves jumping from the Jaguar car to the bus, simply because that's Keanu Reeves himself doing the stunt. He got really into practicing that stunt in his free time, and then he did it, much to director Jan de Bont's dismay. He really didn't want Keanu Reeves to do that because if anything happened to Reeves, then he wouldn't have his movie. And then my second option was the bus jump.
Love it.
Yeah. What was yours?
I had the Keanu Reeves going to the other car, or then I had when the Alan Ruck character like kind of falls,
Okay.
like when they're trying to transfer the people. The character, I know it's not him, it's whoever the stunt double was, but it's whenever his character falls to the next bus,
Oh
and
yeah.
he's kind of like dragging. He's like kind of dragging his feet, but he's kind of like on the other bus.
Like you know it's a actual person hanging out of a moving vehicle.
Exactly, and I was just like, oh well, obviously they're trained professionals, but if he slides out, he's getting scraped up
Yeah,
at
for
the
sure.
least.
He's getting hurt. He's getting I mean like if he falls, he I mean I'm certain they have like certain harnesses and stuff in play where like if somebody loses their grip and he actually does fall, he gets caught. But I just think it's really fascinating like if you think about it in terms of like old school stunt, he could have fallen out of the bus and he probably could have gotten run over by one of the back wheels.
Tragic.
Yeah. Uh, Talking about the bus jump for a second here, I had some insight on it. I'd already mentioned that the first try, the stunt driver had missed the ramp and crashed the bus, making the bus unusable for the scene. But how it wasn't reported to the studio, so a second bus was prepared, and 2 days later, a second attempt was successful. Um, but again, it didn't go as intended. which is funny how it ended up going. Uh, so someone was doing the math in their head, and they were thinking to themselves, the bus, like the bus had its entire interior removed. The only thing still in the bus was the stunt driver, and like and like whatever harnesses and safety material they had in there to keep the stunt driver safe. Even with all that, they were still told that the bus was only going to go about 20 feet as opposed, and it was not going to make the 50-foot gap. So the director placed one of his multiple cameras in a position that was supposed to capture the bus landing. Oh, I'm sorry. I got that entirely mixed up. It was supposed to be that when the bus lands on the other side of the bridge, it was only going to go 20 feet on the other side. So it jumps 50 feet and then add an additional 20 feet, and that's where the bus would end up. So the director placed one of his multiple cameras in a position that was supposed to capture the bus landing. However, the bus traveled much farther airborne than anyone had thought possible, and it crashed down on top of the camera and destroyed it. But of course, there was another camera placed about 90 feet from the jump ramp and recorded the event. So that that was them doing it all in one take, which I thought was really fascinating.
So the first time they broke the bus, and then the second time they broke one of the cameras.
Yeah.
We'll wait till after the film comes out to tell anybody about that.
Yeah, that's definitely not something you want to tell the studio.
No, not till after it's super successful and be like, hey, remember that time?
Yeah. But we'll get into best action slash fight sequence. What do you got?
I had the as well the Alan Ruck hanging out of the bus.
That's a good one for sure. Good action sequence. Mine,
There's not a lot of fights.
not a lot of fights other than Dennis Hopper versus Keanu Reeves. I think that's probably the only one actually. And then of course there's like that small scuffle between the construction worker and the criminal on the bus. I think that's about it though. Oh, and like
Yeah,
Keanu
not
Reeves
a
does
lot.
like his like Keanu Reeves thing where he like kung fu's him and stuff.
Bullet times them.
Yeah. He hits him with like the Neo Enter the Matrix type shit. My best action slash fight sequence was the entirety of the elevator sequence, which I thought was really cool. Just them and like the intensity of them getting the passengers off the elevator before it drops. I thought was really intense, and I was convinced somebody was gonna die.
It just hooked you early, didn't it?
Yeah, like one of the things I thought was gonna happen was I thought because I'd never seen the movie, and so I wasn't sure like where the plot was going. I knew eventually we were gonna get to the bus, but I wasn't sure how it was gonna get set up. So what I thought was gonna happen was the elevator sequence was going to be like a huge failure, and Keanu Reeves' character was going to inadvertently get a bunch of people killed, or at least somebody was going to die under his watch. And the next half of the movie, I thought it was going to play out as like a redemption arc, which is basically like the plot of Cliffhanger, right? Like
Yeah.
that's Die Hard on a mountain, and that's kind of like where I thought the plot was going to go. For some reason, I thought that's kind of because it set itself up so perfectly for that to happen, but it didn't.
Instead, it's a revenge plot.
Yeah, instead it's a reverse revenge plot where the villain's trying to get vengeance on the hero. Getting into overacting anonymous, the category where we talk about our favorite overactor of the movie. I had Dennis Hopper as Howard Payne. Who did you have?
It's disrespectful.
Disrespectful? No, I think that's incredibly
No.
accurate. I think that's incredibly
No,
accurate.
I had Glenn Plummer as the Jaguar owner.
Okay, fair. Fair for sure. Definitely fair. He you know what?
Because if anything, he's the only guy where he's just like, no, don't get any paint on, don't scratch my paint now.
He's definitely what I would consider like that comedic aspect that survived the previous draft of the script.
For sure.
Yeah.
I like how he just steals his phone, steals his car, jumps out, and then he's like, have a nice day.
Yeah. Um, Second comers, the category where we talk about our favorite actor outside of the leads, and I had Jeff Daniels as Harry.
Had our boy Joe Morton.
Joe Morton. Is it is it any at all crazy that I just now realize this? Jeff Daniels is playing a character named Harry, and I just mentioned Dumb and Dumber earlier, where he also played
It,
a character named Harry.
that's why I was like, it's weird that I'm thinking about Dumb and Dumber. I was like, is it?
Yeah, it's so odd. It's so odd. I didn't even notice that
Hey,
until
it's all
the
right, pal.
until just now. Anyway, um, getting into the last category on our docket here, cutting room floor category, where we talk about deleted scenes, scenes we wish went on a little bit longer, and scenes in which we wish were cut. I think it's safe to say, I don't want to speak for you, feel free to correct me here. I don't think there's really any scene you can cut from this movie.
No, I mean, maybe you could take a few minutes off the bus, but I wouldn't.
I wouldn't. I mean, where would you even trim the fat there?
I mean, maybe the scene with the criminal with the gun, but then that just shows you like how good police officer Keanu Reeves is diffusing situations.
Yeah,
Maybe like the airport strip, you can take out part of that, but like that's just nitpicking at that point.
you could probably take out the part where they like start losing fuel because it doesn't really like come into play at all. Like the
No, but it just adds to the stress a little bit.
it,
But yeah, I
yeah,
mean, you could.
but by that point we're already kind of fucked. It just adds the extra timer, and there was already a timer in play. Like Dennis Hopper had to get the money by 11 a.m. or else he was going to blow up the bus anyway. So adding the fact that the fuel was going out and it was already almost 11 wasn't that big of a deal anyway. That's probably the only thing you could cut from that. But what I like about all the bus scenes is that this is one of those movies where you look at this situation, you say to yourself, well, why don't they do this, or why don't they do this to correct the situation? And it seems like from a logical standpoint, they do everything that they possibly can to fix the situation, to save these hostages. Like they're crawling under the bus, they are driving to the airport to just run around in circles. Where I think in the original script they had it to where they were driving around Dodger Stadium and just going in circles. Like
Really weird.
I don't know, yeah, but I guess airport makes more sense because it's actually got a road. And they were just going around in circles, and I think it's just from a logical standpoint they did everything that they could to fix the situation and make it work, and solving the issue of getting the hostages off the bus by doing that subterfuge where they tracked or they intercepted the UHF signal of the video camera that was monitoring them on the bus. I was like, I didn't even think about that because that's like that's some 90s shit right there. I don't know anything about that. Um, but in terms of what I would probably like to see off the cutting room floor, I would like to see a version of this movie where it is just all bus all the time. You
I
know?
love it. I would. I kind of said that earlier, where I said like I kind of think it could work without the elevator scene or without the subway scene at the end.
Yeah.
And I do think it's kind of cheap that they use the same gimmick twice, where they're like, the road's not finished, the railway's not finished, and now we got to jump it.
Yeah. But it is kind of cool how the solution to the well, I guess that's not cool because in both situations it involves jumping is the solution.
Mm-hmm.
So like you have to jump over the 50-foot gap with the bus, and then you have to jump the tracks to get the train to not crash.
Mm-hmm. It's the one thing that I think is a little cheap is they use the same gimmick twice, but it's exciting both times.
Now let me ask you this: do you think the romance between Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves characters works in this movie?
Oh yeah, it's so much more believable than in Demolition Man. Let me tell you.
I mean, yes, I agree with that for sure.
Damn,
Um,
that's crazy. Now I've got you to turn on your own movie.
well,
That's point one for Lincoln today.
I've never been a big fan of the subplot of them being of a couple in that movie. I always thought that was kind of lame. Just because I think that was not the director did not do a good job of directing Sandra Bullock. I think is the main issue I have with that. But in this movie, it's different. For me, it was kind of like, do I believe that these people will form a bond over the span of like 2 hours that they know each other and develop such a intense romance right off the bat? Because they don't know anything about each other. It's strictly just one of those things where it's like, maybe I'm only attracted to this person because of the fact that they just saved my life. You know what I mean?
And they even make the joke in there.
They do. And according to Speed 2, it didn't work out anyway.
No, but Speed 2 didn't happen if you're asking me.
Yeah,
If
no,
I was the one who made Speed 2, it would be the elevator shaft, but the whole movie would be the elevator shaft.
I gotcha. I mean, yeah, Speed 2 is just Die Hard on a boat. So,
Yeah,
once you go
yeah, I
from
mean, that's why it's
you
bad.
go from bus to boat. Come on now.
It's bad. Just go to elevator shaft. You already
Just
did it
do
well for it.
just do wagon wheel. Come on. Just do no, we should do Die Hard on a
Mama,
horse.
you're a wagon wheel.
We should do Die Hard on a horse. Because eventually the horse
Dude,
has to
the
stop.
Amish,
A horse and buggy.
dude, Amish Die Hard.
Amish Die Hard. I wonder what you would call that. Oh. But anyway,
Fucking
um,
churn hard.
churn hard. If you stop churning, we're all gonna die.
Oh, I'm just gonna start writing that tonight.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good
Go
sketch.
ahead and cut that out just in case. Just in
No,
case it takes off.
so nobody steals it. I gotcha.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, that's you have closing statements you would like to have for Speed.
Yes, I would like to say that Speed is a household name. It's at least number four on my Mount Rushmore altogether of action movies. I just thoroughly enjoy it. It's just mwah, chef's kiss.
Well, good deal. Mine is basically this was a great movie. I really enjoyed watching it for the first time. I never I never would have thought this movie would have been as good as it was. Um, I just had a lot of fun with it, and I was pleasantly surprised with how good it was. So that's my final thoughts on Speed. So, all that being said, we are going to go ahead and jump into the tier list that we've got hooked up here. As we said at the beginning of the podcast, we were all going to do a tier list where we talk about, we've already done 10 movies so far. Isn't that something? And I thought it was time to celebrate that a little bit. Come on, you're almost there. Picker wheel. There we go. There we go. Okay, so we've already got the movies laid out. I will name the movie, and then you just have to tell me what you think it should be ranked at. We have S, A, B, C, and D. I doubt we're going to get to the D tier at all. But we'll go ahead and jump in with our first one we got right here. I'll try to do it in the order that we covered them, but I might get that order mixed up a
All
little
right.
bit. So, starting off, we have The Terminator.
I think it's just a classic S rank right there.
That's an S rank right there for sure. Put that in S. Then we have, I mean, I'll just briefly give my thoughts on that. So it's a perfect movie. It's got the perfect story. It's got the perfect script. The action is incredible for 1984 standards. And this is probably in the Mount Rushmore for Arnold movies. and this is a great James Cameron movie as like his first big break movie. This is definitely the one I like to watch the most, other than like Total True Lies, where they reunite. Anyway, I just thought that was important to say. Then we have First Blood. I feel like
I also had this as S.
you have this as S.
I did, but I could talk it down.
I think you have to take this one. Uh, I'm trying to think here. I mean, like, I always think to myself, is this movie as good as something like Terminator? I feel like A is a pretty strong contender for
I
First
put
Blood.
I'd be happy with it.
I think that's fair. I don't know. I love First Blood. I think it's the best of the Rambo movies, but I don't know if I'd put it at S. I don't know. That's a tough sell.
We'll put it A for now.
We'll put it at A for now. Next is Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior.
It's a classic C.
Classic C. Yeah, I could probably see it at C. I could probably see it at B. Um, I feel like I had said when I watched the movie, the dialogue was just kind of shallow, and I kind of felt like the best thing it had going for it was like the last 20 minutes. So I feel like C is pretty accurate. That's the C is like average. That doesn't mean it's like bad. It just means it's pretty average.
It's not D or F. It's just average.
No.
C was as low as I went.
Yeah. So then we have Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's got to be S.
It's gotta be S.
That's got to be S. That's not even a contest. Up next is what did we do next? We did Predator.
It was Predator.
Yep. Predator A. Yeah, that's a good A. That's a good A. Predator's A. It falls just short of Terminator in terms of Arnold movies. It's really great, and I love how it subverts the expectations of what being a uber badass action hero looks like when you're faced with something as badass and uber as the Predator. Um, I just think some other movies do that subversion just a little bit better, like Die Hard, for instance, which is the next one on the list. I feel like you gotta make Die Hard S.
I agree.
I feel like that's just like it's a great subversion of the action
It,
tropes in
it's a
movies.
Christmas movie.
It's a Christmas movie. It automatically gains 10 points to Gryffindor. And
Hell yeah.
I think it just works. I think it just works really well in that
Hey, we're
regard.
Ravenclaws in this. We're not. We're Ravenclaw, buddy.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. Um, yeah, I feel bad for you, but it's okay. Up next
I feel bad for you, son.
is Beverly Hills Cop.
I was gonna put a B on this one.
Really? Put a B? Because the action's not really like that great in this movie, I noticed.
No,
So for action
and I
jack
liked it,
offs,
but I wanted to. I just, out of all of them, I had to put something in B.
yeah, I mean B for Beverly Hills Cop. I mean it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Up next is Demolition Man. I
Classic C.
I feel C. I gotta give it B.
No, it's classic C.
Classic C. Are you kidding
We put
me?
it right there next to Mad Max. Come on.
I'm gonna have to fight you on this.
No,
Come
come
on,
on.
it's a B. Okay,
We got
fine.
so many more Arnold, or sorry, we have so many more Sly movies.
You're right. You're right. I'll put it in C. I'll put it in C. I won't fight you
Hell
here
yeah. Hell yeah.
though. Then we have the Fast and the Furious.
We could also put this one in C or B.
I think this is a good C. I think this is like not.
Yeah,
This is
I
not.
agree.
It's not a bad movie, but I wouldn't put it above. I would say,
Below
uh,
Beverly Hills Cop.
yeah, below Beverly Hills Cop for sure. And then we've got Speed. Speed is now added to the echelon. The 10th movie. What do we got
I'd give
there?
it a good A or A or so ranking, I'd say.
That is so fair. That makes so much
I
sense.
was gonna say, I was gonna say S, but then I was like, but it's not quite Terminator.
No, it's not quite there. Which leads me to the next part of the tier list, ranking them within each tier. So
Yeah.
start with S. It's Terminator, Raiders, Die Hard. I feel like you have to put. I feel like
Ah,
you got to put Raiders above Terminator.
yeah. Yeah, you gotta. Yeah, it's probably the best out of everything we've done so far. It's probably the best movie.
Like out of just like every movie so far, that is just like a great movie for all ages.
Yeah, and it's just spectacular.
But then I think following that, Terminator and then Die Hard, I think is a pretty fair ranking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then moving into A tier, it's right now it's First Blood, Predator, and Speed.
I feel like it's gotta go Predator Speed.
Yeah, fair. And then First Blood kind of gets bumped to bottom A tier, which
But hey,
feels
being the bottom of air, that feels right. For right
it
now.
it feels right for Predator and Speed. It feels a little disrespectful to First Blood. I'm not gonna lie, because I like First Blood.
Hey,
First
it can
Blood's
move up.
it can
Hey,
it can have a chance to move up.
motherfucker, I said S for First Blood originally. I don't want to hear this.
I know, it's just, can you really look at First Blood and say that's an S tier movie? Because I think it really starts to fall off towards the third act.
No, but that's what I'm saying. The next time we do this with 10 more movies, it will probably be the middle of A rank.
True, true. Um,
It's
Be-
just the standings right now.
Beverly Hills Cop is by itself, so we skip that. And then C tier, right now it's Mad Max 2, Demolition Man, and Fast and the Furious. I feel like we have to put Demolition Man at the top of C tier. Like it's almost
Yeah,
B
it's
tier.
Demolition. It's Demolition Man, Fast and the Furious, then Mad Max.
Really? You think Fast and Furious is better than Mad
I
Max
mean,
2?
would you rather watch Fast and the Furious or Mad Max again?
Uh
I've just personally, I would find myself watching at least scenes from Fast and the Furious before I would ever find myself watching Mad Max 2 again.
that's fair, I guess. That again just feels it feels pretty disrespectful to Mad Max 2. Um
Again, there's gonna be worse movies.
oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. All right, just I feel like Fast and the Furious is probably the worst one we've done so far. So putting Mad Max 2 below
Ah,
that
I just,
seems a little
I
seems a
just feel, I
little
feel like it would be Mad
counterproductive.
Max. Mad Max was the one I had on the lowest so far.
I'll concede. I'll concede on that because I was the one that I was
Hey,
the
I'd
one.
be,
Go ahead.
I- I'd be happy to move up Demolition Man one spot if you'd like to fair trade.
To B tier.
I'd move it up to B tier, but then I would put Beverly Hills Cop in front of it.
That's fine. That's I went ahead and did that because that's what I kind of figured was gonna happen.
Fair trade.
Fair trade. Okay, so that's our list right there. It's the end of this tier list. Obviously, when we get to 20 movies, we'll do this again and we'll add it to the tier list, or we'll just do it like as we go. Hard to say. We'll figure that out. But that's gonna be it for the tier list. Now we're gonna get into the picker wheel, and then I'll make some minor adjustments here because I know that we're probably going to take off some movies. Like we already said, we're going to take off Point Break so we can work out a better schedule for that. And then I was going to take out The Running Man. Or should I leave The Running Man on there?
Up to you. I'd be fine with leaving it.
Let's just leave it, and then I'll add the other two movies that were suggested to us. So I, Robot, and then it was Yojimbo or Yohimbo. I don't know how you say it. Okay. Okay. And then we're going to go for the spin. and then we'll see what we get for next week. And it's I forgot to take off speed because
What?
it just gave us speed again.
I guess we're watching Speed again next week.
I guess we're watching speed again. My fault.
Re-Speed.
Re-speed. Okay, that was my fault. I didn't even see speed was still on there. One more spin. One more spin. Oh, and it's the Running Man.
All right. Well, good thing you didn't take it off.
Yeah, I guess so. All right, cool.
I don't think I've ever seen The Running Man, so that'll be interesting.
It's another Arnold movie to add to the repertoire. I'm gonna go ahead and.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is, brother. All right. Well, that's going to be it from us this week, you guys. Make sure you guys tune in next week. We're going to be covering The Running Man. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel because every single one of the streams and podcasts go up the next day on YouTube. So that's going to be it from us. Lincoln, do you have anything to say before we sign off?
Live long and prosper. Good night.
See you guys later. Peace.
Peace.